Hey, what is up guys, I'm KBHD here, and this is a OnePlus 2. It is. And I can't show it to you guys yet because it's not out yet, but if you've been following along with OnePlus over the past couple weeks, they've been like teasing / trolling the release of various specs of the OnePlus 2 ahead of the official announcement. One of the things they haven't actually talked about yet is the information and specs about the camera. So they sent me one of the phones early, and I am tasked with testing this new camera. So I'm not going to be promoting it in any way. I'm literally just going to be figuring out if it's any good or not. I do think later this year, once we have the new Galaxy Note and the new iPhone and maybe the new Moto X and new Nexus, we're going to have to do a sort of a full giant comparison between all the smartphone cameras. But for now, this is just a video on my experience with the OnePlus 2's camera. And I'm not going to be revealing anything else about it, even if I have it, so don't ask. So first of all, just to get the numbers out of the way, I have a photo album with all the images that I'm about to show you guys linked right below this like button. They are 13 megapixel photos. Officially, in the camera app, it was telling me there are 4x3 photos at 12.5 megapixels, so 13 megapixel sensor, and also pretty much every single photo that I took, no matter bright or dim conditions, was pretty much always at f2. So f2.0 appears to be the maximum aperture. So pretty much all of the photos here were taken in like one shot in auto mode. So just walk up, focus, snap the photo, and then shove it back in my pocket. And my impressions of the images are pretty solid so far. There's nothing too insane or out of the ordinary here, but sharpness is pretty good, as it should be with plenty of light like this. Contrast is on point, and colors look pretty accurate as well. And dynamic range is actually pretty healthy too. Without using HDR, it held most of the tonal range. Obviously, there's still extreme areas of contrast where there's still areas of total white and still areas of total black, but unlike some phones like the One M9 for example, this OnePlus 2 usually picks a nice balanced exposure between the highlights and the shadows, so nothing too crazy here. You can see everything, nothing really gets blown out. Now there are a couple different shooting modes in the OnePlus camera software. Like I said, I shot in automatic mode most of the time, but there was also something called clear shot, and then there's also HDR mode, and then a beauty mode, which is just a skin softening for portraits. So clear shot, I couldn't really pinpoint exactly what it's doing. It could be better in low light, but I'm not really sure yet because in most of my shots it was identical to auto mode, just a lot sharper. So you'll really only notice that sharpness when you zoom in. Could be trying to fake those like 50 megapixel shots like Oppo used to. And then HDR mode, which does a pretty aggressive job at bringing up the shadows and the darker areas, and it also adds a lot of saturation. So here again is auto, clear shot, and then HDR. So auto, HDR, auto, and then HDR with a moving auto. Pretty impressive. So there's also the panorama mode, which was pretty standard. The interface guides you exactly like taking a panorama on an iPhone, and it's just together pretty nicely. So yeah, overall, I found the photos had a nice sort of balance to them. It usually erred on the side of a little bit underexposed, where some others actually tend to overexpose. And like I said at the beginning, almost every photo was at f2.0, so not as fast as the f1.9 or f1.8 on the Galaxy S6 and LG G4, but shooting at f2 all the time means the shutter speed was pretty fast, and you can freeze action to get it nice and crispy, and you can also get a pretty shallow depth of field going on at f2 if your background is further away. I also tried some lower light shooting as well, since this is where a fast aperture should shine, and it did okay. I'm not really sure if it has optical image stabilization or not. My guess would be no, based on actually the videos that I shot. So speaking of video, yes, the OnePlus 2 shoots 4K video, which is nice and crispy. As you can see here, when I tried moving around a bit, all this stuff is handheld, and even in video mode you can get some nice depth of field, which I guess is still shooting at f2. And it also is particularly good, it's like really good at focusing. So adjusting focus and getting it nice and sharp to start the video and then focus while shooting was pretty good too. A lot of times we see this smartphones tout 4K video, but then when you go in and actually look at the video it takes, it just looks like muddy, like upscaled 1080p, or even worse. So I'm glad this isn't the case here. The 4K looks good, it gets a pass. Also, you can record 720p video in slow motion. Alright, so here's one final test. I brought together a couple of the top dogs in smartphone quality right now: LG G4, Galaxy S6, iPhone 6 Plus, and I threw in the OnePlus 1 from last year, all to compare with the OnePlus 2 camera. And here's what I got. If you're watching in 4K or the highest resolution you can, that'll help you see the differences. Also, I'll have some full-size links, again, to look at below. Here's the OnePlus 1 from last year, and then here's the same photo on the iPhone 6 Plus, the LG G4, the Galaxy S6, and then the OnePlus 2. And you can see side by side, just in terms of exposure and detail and color, what it tends to favor. You get a sort of a good portrait and characteristic of what a photo from the OnePlus 2 looks like. Not the sharpest thing in the world, but pretty good exposure and color. And again, here's another one I took of a tree trunk, like just for the sharpness and detail test. So here's the OnePlus 1, then the iPhone 6 Plus, LG G4, Galaxy S6, and then OnePlus 2. So again, in the side-by-side, it holds its own, and image processing is at least definitely a step up from last year's model. So there you go, guys. That's the camera on the OnePlus 2. A lot of the stuff you talk about when you consider taking pictures on a smartphone is just the shooting experience when you're taking photos and videos with it, and the OnePlus was pretty quick to take photos. I wouldn't say it's the fastest, but it's pretty quick once you tap the shutter to actually focus and take the picture. And the focusing itself was actually very quick thanks to what appears to be laser autofocus at work in the hardware. There you go, that's another spec. Laser autofocus made the photos and videos focus very quickly. It's definitely not the best camera on any smartphone I've used. I would give that still hands down right now to the Galaxy S6, followed closely by the LG G4 and then a couple others right there. But at least if you're checking down the boxes and seeing if this is the next phone you want to buy, you know that the camera doesn't suck. It's pretty decent. I would give it like a B+ to A- given the numbers. I don't know anything about the price of this phone, but given the hardware, it seems pretty good. It's also not even finalized software. It's the version 1.0 of their camera app, so assuming that stuff can also be improved and processing can be tweaked before the final version, I feel like this is a pretty good thing to see. So thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to share this video if you think others will be interested in the camera quality of the OnePlus 2, and I'll talk to you guys in the very next video. Peace.